Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to do a video on a game I didn't think I'd be making content on again, and that is New World, because there has been some pretty massive changes to the game since the last time I played. Now before we get into all this information, I did want to mention that New World is actually growing again. So within the past couple of days, it has reached 40,000 concurrent players, which as people are mentioning was the first time since February, so quite a long time ago. And I want to mention this because that is a fear for a lot of players of MMOs, that they're going to put time into an MMO and there's not going to be a lot of players in it, especially a game like New World that actually has reasons for servers to have a good amount of players on them. It is a nice thing to know that the game is growing and has a good amount of players. Keep in mind that's 40,000 concurrent, so that is a lot more than 40,000 people actually playing a game. That's just the concurrent, how many people are on at once. So the game is growing again, which is due to a lot of the stuff we're about to go over. And I have been playing New World for the past couple of days, and a lot of these changes seem to be generally pretty good, especially compared to what the game was 6 or 8 months ago when the vast majority of the player base stopped playing. So I want to do a general overview of a lot of the changes that have happened since most of the player base stopped playing. And a few months ago there was an officially released post that goes over a bunch of their new additions and changes to the game. And if I end up continuing to play New World, which it seems like I will, I'll probably do videos specifically going over a lot of these systems more in depth, because most of the main systems of the game have changed in some way. Now the first part of this post is going over expeditions, and expeditions as a system has been pretty heavily changed. So first off, there are 2 new expeditions in the game. There's Tempest's Heart, which is your final battle against Isabella and also the final main story mission of the game right now. And then Barnacles and Black Powder, which is a pirate themed expedition. Both of these are more endgame expeditions, so I think they're both level 60. But then past these new expeditions, we also have massive changes to the system in general. So first off, there are no longer any keys to enter expeditions. When the game first came out, you had to use a ton of resources to craft expedition keys, which meant a lot of people were running them because they were expensive to enter. But now you can do 25 normal expeditions every single day, which for most players you're not going to hit that cap. So effectively for most players you can just run as many as you want, and there's no cost to enter them. You can also run 25 mutated expeditions every single week, and we'll go over that when we go over mutations. Now they have also added a looking for group system. So now if you've discovered that expedition, you can go to your map, click on that expedition, and there will be a group finder UI. So you can start groups or look for groups, and you can queue up as tank, DPS, or healer. Groups can also specify if they want a certain gear score, if they want you to be a certain level, if you're doing lower level expeditions, and if they want you to have a mic or not. So just a normal looking for group system. Now it is expedition specific, so if you want to look for a group for that expedition, you have to go to the map, click on that expedition, and it's only groups for that expedition. I hope at some point they make the group finder just a window you go into and you can look for all the different expeditions, because it does get pretty annoying if you're just looking to do any expedition, having to go and look through every single expedition on the map to look for a group, but it's much better than it was before. And that brings us to one of the bigger changes, at least for endgame, is the mutated expedition system. Like I mentioned, you can do 25 of these a week. So mutated expeditions are essentially just a higher difficulty system. Now there are 2 mutated dungeons every week, and they cycle through all of the different expeditions. So even if it's a lower expedition, when it's mutated for that week, there will be endgame versions of that expedition. And expeditions add different mutators to the dungeon. They allow you to earn different perks on items from that mutated dungeon, and they now have 10 difficulties of mutations. Mutations 1 to 10, they get more difficult with every mutation. They add more effects into the dungeon that you have to worry about, and they give more and more loot. And there are 3 types of mutations, and you don't have all types active until you get to the higher tiers of mutations. So there are elemental mutations, which infuse enemies with a specific elemental damage type, which increases their resistance to that damage type and also converts most of their damage to that damage type, which also means you can change out some of your gear to be much more resistant to that specific elemental type. Promotion mutations, which grants enemies in that expedition powerful new abilities, so new abilities you have to play around. And curse mutations, which apply dangerous effects to players. And the curse mutations are only at the very high mutation levels. And one of the examples was if you dodge, you get a damage over time applied to you that does a certain percentage of your health over time. So you have to be careful with spamming dodges because you'll constantly be taking damage over time. Somewhat akin to like Mythic Plus dungeons for World of Warcraft, an ever-growing difficulty of dungeon modifiers to go do for better loot and more challenges. So that brings us to PvP. So the new addition for PvP has been 3v3 arenas. It's best of 5, and it has a lot of the other features you would expect from an arena. Healing gets reduced over time. You're essentially just put in an arena with some pillars and you fight 3v3 in a best of 5 format. Pretty simple there, and players who want more of that small scale, more skill-based combat are probably really going to like these arenas. You can also queue from these arenas from anywhere, so it's pretty easy to just queue up while gathering and continuously run a bunch of 3v3 arenas. You can also queue up for outpost rushes anywhere as well. And that brings us to the biggest change for gearing up in PvP, the PvP rewards track. So essentially how this works is there's a new UI for this PvP window, and once you first go to it, there's going to be at the bottom, there's going to be 3 checkpoints that have 3 boxes in each checkpoint that are going to be grayed out. Now earning XP while PvPing is going to unlock these different checkpoints, and that's from anything. That's from 3v3, open world PvP, outpost rush, anything. You'll gain PvP experience. Now once you unlock one of these checkpoints, there are 3 rewards below it. Now doing anything in PvP, you are also earning this currency called Azov Salt, and you also get this from any PvP. Now this is the currency that you buy the items in these checkpoints, and you can get gold, you can get items, you can get consumables, you can get tons of stuff out of these. And then once you've done these 3 checkpoints and you've gotten everything you want, you can complete the track and it'll open up a new track to progress through and keep getting rewards. So if you're somebody that really likes doing PvP, you're going to have a lot of rewards to go work through and continuously get just by PvPing. There's also been 2 new weapons added into the game. First off being the Void Gauntlet, which is a caster weapon, which is a mix of a healing and damage weapon. So there's one tree that has a lot to do with healing, and there's one tree that has more to do with damage and some CC, but both sides have damage and healing in them. So even on the damage side, you have a lot of self-healing and even some group healing. So it's a good mix, and it's a good weapon both for healers and for mage type playstyles that focus on intellect. Then there's the Blunderbuss, which is a short to mid-range range damage weapon. Also has a lot of different CC in it, scales with strength and intelligence, so it has a lot of different build opportunities with that. And from what I've heard, it seems to be a pretty strong weapon in general. And that brings us to more quality of life changes for the game, because there has been a lot of improvements with this. And there are a ton of bullet points, so I'm just going to go through some of these. So easier leveling, it takes less for players to improve required trade skills, doesn't take as long. There's a kind of revamped new player experience. They've changed a bunch of the early quests, specifically so players don't have to travel as much when doing the quests. There are new cross-region transfers, so you can transfer to a different region to play with your friends. There are new housing quests to get you some easy furniture and decor rewards. There are new enemies, but these specific ones are more lower and mid-level enemies. There are new open world objectives, which includes a randomly spawning loot goblin that if you kill actually gives you some pretty good loot. There are collectible paintings scattered throughout the world, which I think you're able to place in your house if I'm not mistaken. There is a new expertise system. Now this one's pretty big. So essentially what the game had before was your watermark, which wasn't shown anywhere in the game, and basically all you could do to increase this was everybody just ran around doing chest runs. But this has been changed into the expertise system, which is shown on your UI now, and you get expertise increases from a bunch of different systems. Running dungeons is a really good way, and just generally most things you do in the game will increase your expertise. And expertise starts at 500 when you hit level 60 and goes up to 625. And along with that comes a revamped endgame loot system. Pretty much every activities you're doing out in the world will earn you basically new currency called gypsum, and getting this new currency can be crafted into gypsum orbs, which then you can use these orbs to craft gear pieces of whatever slot you want. So any weapon slots, any gear slots, or any of your jewelry pieces. And using one of these gypsum orbs to craft an item will give you a box that gives you a random item for that slot. That is always going to be an expertise increase. And a lot of this gypsum is stuff that you get daily. So for instance, if you get on for the day, if you go out and gather a few rocks or a few trees, you're going to get 3 bags, and these bags all have one of these gypsum currencies. So you get 3 total for the day, and then you go craft 1 gypsum orb with that, and you get yourself a gear piece that's a guaranteed expertise increase. So this gypsum system is pretty easy to get a lot of it on a daily basis to continuously increase your expertise without having to do much grinding in the game. So this is a really good system for both hardcore and casual players. Casual players can keep increasing their expertise without spending much grind time, and for more hardcore players, this is just another way to continuously increase your expertise and specifically target items that may be lacking behind other items. And like I mentioned, if I keep playing New World, I'll probably do a video on the expertise system because it's a little bit more complicated. And then they list out a bunch of quality of life features, and some of these are pretty massive. Storage is now linked across all territories. So if you go to one storage, you can access all the storages across the entirety of the game. It takes nothing to take stuff out of any storage. It's basically just split up storages. You can put anything anywhere you want. Taxes have been reduced. Fast travel is now very cheap, and it does not increase off of weight really. I'm pretty sure it's only distance now, and the fast travel cost caps out at 20 Azoth. Before it could cost hundreds to go further into the map. So very cheap now. Players now have unlimited tier 1 ammo. So if you're trying to level up new range weapons that require an ammo, it's completely free for tier 1 ammo. Respeccing has been reduced in cost, so now it's much cheaper. So you can try out different builds. I think weapon builds are capped at like 50 Azoth now. I think it could be hundreds before as well. So that's much cheaper. And there are a few more quality of life things, but these are some of the big ones. Also, with the storage being linked between all territories, the trading post is also linked between all territories now. So it doesn't matter where you put up items. And also, this isn't mentioned here, but wars have also been put into their own instance server when you go to war. So these big battles fighting over a settlement are now going to be a lot less laggy. That was one of probably the biggest issues with the game, was pretty much every single war had some type of exploit or bug or server issue that happened in pretty much every single war. Now a lot of that stuff has been alleviated because it's on its own specific server and in its own instance. So that brings us what's coming next. And this is one of the big reasons I started playing again, because of what is actually coming next. Because they have revealed and shown off their probably first major patch into the game, the Brimstone Sands patch. Now what comes with this is a new region, the Brimstone Sands, which is the biggest region in the game. And looking over a lot of the stuff that's been shown on it, this doesn't have the issue that a lot of the other parts of New World has, where it's all copy and pasted. Pretty much everything in this zone is brand new. All the architecture is new. The point of interest aren't just copied point of interest. The new big settlement there isn't just a turned around settlement placed somewhere else. It's completely new, all fully custom, tons of new enemies to fight, a pretty big update, a new massive zone with everything fully unique. So it's not going to seem like you're exploring the same areas again, which was a big issue in the rest of the game. A new expedition, which is the Ennead, a new weapon, which is the Greatsword, which is something that has very much been wanted for a long time. This Greatsword actually seems pretty cool. It's a tank and a DPS weapon. So one side's like a tank, one side's like a DPS, and it has some pretty cool kind of stance swapping mechanics to it. And there was also some additional stuff that's not hinted at here, but there are some new class customization features coming. They're adding a new gear slot that sits under your weapons, where you can put in what's essentially like a rune stone that basically gives you an ultimate ability. And there's going to be, I think, 5 or 6 of these that give you these ultimate abilities. You charge them up by doing damage in combat, and then you use them. One was like a big AoE root. One was like a hardening effect that makes you immune to all CC, stuff like that. One was like a cannon shot. And then you upgrade these rune stones to the higher rarities that give more effects on them, buff them up more, add perks to them. So a pretty massive new way to customize your character. Then there's also a new addition to the gem system called Rune Glass, which essentially allows you to upgrade gems even further into Rune Glass, which adds an additional effect to these that are incredibly strong, that gives a lot more ways to customize your build and your playstyle. And like I mentioned, that's not all the new stuff coming, and that's not all the changes that have happened over the past 6 to 8 months, but this is a lot of the more main stuff. And in general, the game is just in a much better spot right now. There are still some pain points when I've been playing the past couple of days. There's still some pretty big issues in the game, but generally the game's a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding to do whatever you want, whether it's gathering, running expeditions, running PvP, pretty much whatever you want to do in the game is going to reward you with a lot more items, more ways to make gold, and gearing up in the game has probably been the biggest upgrade. So now doing anything will over time just give you increases to gear. You can go farm it in expeditions if you want and gear it much more quickly, much better. That was one of the biggest reasons why I left New World, because the gearing system and the watermark system was just so bad, but it's so much better now. And I probably will be doing more New World videos, so make sure to subscribe to keep an eye out for all that content. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so subscribe if you want to see more New World or other MMO videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about all of these additions and changes to New World, and thanks for watching.